We live in a culture and in an education system that focuses on deficits, right? And so we're looking to change that paradigm away from what's wrong to what's strong about somebody. Um, and that takes courage, to
Right,
do that
exactly.
because that's not the narrative that we grew up with. We have an idea in our society that it's always pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps. That's kind of that individualistic kind of paradigm in the United States. However, my experience has been it's interdependence, and that's why you need that community around you. You need the person or people who have your back because you have to feel safe to be able to show up, whether you're a kid or you're an adult. It's still looking at the kinds of times in your life where you were able to shine. What were those situations? And then tease out the talents that you showed up with. And sometimes you got to be careful because then life brings it to you. So you got to
Exactly,
be
exactly.
careful what you ask for.
Well, yeah. Monica Cochran, it's such a pleasure to be with you and the
Yeah.
work that you've been doing, Learning Without Borders. You and I have been connected for over a decade,
Oh, for
related
sure.
to what if people could bring really who they are to their life, their
Hmm.
livelihood, and really own their true essence. And I love the work you've been doing around strengths, and our podluck on September 6th is like all about what if we could be strong rather than being wrong or worried
Yes,
about being wrong.
right.
We came up with that title, and why did we come up with that title?
Well, because we live in a culture and in an education system that focuses on deficits, right? And so we're looking to change that paradigm away from what's wrong to what's strong about somebody. Um, and that takes courage, to
Right,
do that
exactly.
because that's not the narrative that we grew up with.
Exactly. So
Education
this
system.
idea of really learning who we are wired from the inside out
Yeah.
is an inner work. It's an inner job that sometimes
It
no
is.
one can tell you your core strengths. You have to discover it. And
Mm-hmm.
you have been studying this for how many years?
Oh, almost 20, almost
All
20.
right. And what caused you to really do that inner work? Because of your background as a teacher and as a mother and as a facilitator in so many ways, you found that you needed to do something to awaken people. How did that come about?
I think it was all of the above. Okay. Again, I think when we come to the work, sometimes the work comes to us, right? Through I did not expect to be home learning with my kids, but one of my kids said, I'm not going back to school. Okay, well, I guess we need to find a solution. Interestingly enough, there were lots of things he was good at, and people kept saying, "You're so good at everything, you should get A's in everything." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure that's really important. What's important is he learning? What's he learning?"
Right, exactly,
As he
exactly,
said, "My mom's only going to ask you what did I learn? She's not going to care about the A." And that starts with looking at your kids and their interests and their curiosities and their talents. And they're different for everybody. So I think if we want a firm foundation for people to learn and become lifelong learners, we've got to start with um, what works. What what's showing up for that kid, or and I can't do that for other people if I'm not doing it for myself. So he
exactly.
forced me to do that. So okay, so where am I strong?
Okay. Well, let me say something about this because so many of us have been programmed
Hmm.
into believing who we are is based on how someone else judged us, based
Hmm.
on some paradigm that had nothing to do with our really inner truth.
No.
So a lot of work you've been doing is with parents who are really interested in their children evolving into the real essence of who they are. But then there's a whole lot of people right now, Monica, that never got it as a kid, and they're still in transition about who am I? Why am I here? What's up for me? So, how do I go about it as an adult when I missed out when I was a kid?
Yeah.
What's your approach on that?
Well, again, I think the process is the same whether you're a kid or you're an adult. It's still looking at the kinds of times in your life where you were able to shine. What were those situations? And then tease out the talents that you showed up with. And when we come to the potluck, we might have a chance to do that. That's like one of the activities I like to do, as long as we
Absolutely.
have enough time, is to do that
Exactly.
because it's a little bit it's like a lot of things. We don't know it until it's over, and that's the piece of reflection. If we're not reflecting on our life, reflecting on our experiences, we don't get a chance to learn from them. And another thing about the school system, we're always forging ahead. And I've been guilty of this in my own life and with, children when I was in regular conventional school. We have to move forward. But that piece where we stop and we reflect for a minute, and we certainly are going to notice because we have a negativity bias, what didn't work. But that idea of actually overriding the negativity bias and say, okay, so what did work here? What am I good at? How do I show up in the world? And then whether you use an assessment tool or you just use your life or and dialogue with somebody else, then you can say, okay, here's how I can show up in the world. And and then your life can begin to reflect it. And sometimes you got to be careful because then life brings it to you. So you got to
Exactly,
be
exactly.
careful what you ask
Well,
for.
yeah, like let's say, well, we call ourselves the change makers in this community, and the idea
Yeah.
is like right now in this time in 2025, on the cusp of 2026, it's time to show up, really
Yep.
clean out your beliefs that aren't serving you, and actually ask for support to build resilience. Because I love the theme for this. It's about being strong rather than looking at what's wrong. So, what would be
Yeah.
your key statement about being strong and building resilience?
Well, I think we have an idea in our society that it's always pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps. That's kind of that individualistic kind of paradigm in the United States. However, my experience has been it's interdependence, and that's why you need that community around you. You need the person or people who have your back because you have to feel safe to be able to show up.
It really doesn't matter what age you are, because if people can show up strong with confidence, owning their inner strength, regardless of what others are saying or doing, it's an important aspect right now because there are people looking for you and your strengths.
Yeah.
And the bond that we're building for the positive change is going to require each of us to own that from the inside out.
Yep.
So I'm excited about you
Yeah, I am
being with
too.
us on September 6th. And if you know your strengths already, come because guess what?
Talk
Monica, a lot
about
of people
you.
know their strengths. They know them up here, but they're not embodying them in a
Right.
way that can help them move forward. And you can help us with that. Is that right?
I can. And if you've already had some strengths done and you put it in a drawer, I'm going to invite you to take it out of that drawer, and look at it and put it someplace where you see it all the time and that you can use it because if we don't use our strengths or our talents, they're just not
Yeah,
going to be used and the
exactly.
world doesn't get to
It's
benefit.
like a muscle.
It is like a muscle very much. So
All
I
right.
appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
So
All
thanks for
right.
inviting me.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you on September 6th. And you can see the link to register below this video. Thanks so
Right.
much for watching. And Monica, thank you for helping me be strong in my strengths and bringing my talents forward as a change maker. Appreciate you so much.
Thanks so much, Renee.